Yeah, anyways, welcome back to another final review video, but this time is for Matoi. Let's just dive straight into the kit. So Matoi is an ice debuffer who specializes in buffing technical damage or technical debuffs. For A0, some of her skills and highlight can trigger ice technical. So ice technical is when you use an ice skill on characters that are burn, windswept or whatever, or if you're using any element on a target that's frozen. I will make another guide on technical precision soon after the fire wind releases, because it can get a little bit complicated. Then when you deal ice damage, you ignore the ice resistance. Every time on Matoi section, she will get an extinguish stack, and you can stack up to 4 times. Then when you use the skill 3, you will spend extinguish stacks and inflict 1 damnation stack on all foes for each extinguish stacks you spend. The damnation is basically damage taken increase, for 2 turns up to 4 stacks. For skill 1, you will gain extinguish stack, then deal AoE ice damage with 50% chance to freeze. And you decrease defense for 3 turns. And any ally that attacks the foe does this defense debuff increase the technical precision by 195. Technical precision is basically a buff to technical stuff. So technical damage, technical debuffs, they get a buff. And if at least one foe is inflicted with burn, you remove the burn and then you inflict scald on all foes. You only need 1 burn to inflict scald on all enemies. And scald counts as a burn, lasts for 3 turns, and allies that attack the affected foe will increase technical precision by quite a bit. Skill 2 is a single target move that can activate ice technical, and then when deep freeze is activated, deep freeze is when you use ice skill on freeze. You have 48% chance to inflict icebound. Icebound is basically like a perma freeze where the opponents cannot move. This is not really effective against guild boss SOS because they're immune to that. So skill 3 can be used when you have 2 or more extinguish stacks, and you spend 2 extinguish stacks to deal AoE damage and decrease defense. This skill can also activate ice technical, and when ice burn is activated, so basically when you use an ice move on burn target or use fire move on freeze target, but for this specific case it's gonna be ice move on burn target because this skill is an ice move. So when you activate ice burn, so when you use this skill on a burn target, you will evolve the ice burn to cold flames. And what is cold flames? Cold flames increase damage taken, basically. So you need burn to fully activate her kit, because for skill 1, you need burn to inflict scald, and scald will increase technical precision, and technical precision will increase the effect of cold flames, because cold flames is basically technical stuff. You get cold flames when you inflict ice burn, because the ice burn evolves into cold flames. And if you have 4 or more extinguish stacks, you basically just improve everything. I'm not gonna go through the numbers because it's gonna be very confusing, but just some nice better effects and higher numbers. But for A0, you can only activate this second half once every like 6 turns or something, because you can only get 4 stacks on turn 4. For highlight is an AoE ice move, and it can increase the damage taken for 2 turns. This skill can also activate technical, and then when you activate defreeze, so use this highlight on a frozen target, you will have 32% chance to inflict icebound. Then you increase the target damage taken even more. And then finally, you do another tick of damage. So basically, damage, debuff, then damage again. First passive, each time Matoi activates technical, so pretty much every time you use a skill 3 or a highlight, you'll grant a shield for 2 turns. When Matoi is present, increase damage taken on frozen enemies by 27%, then increase by 27 more if the target has icebound. Moving on to a 4-star weapon, increase the attack by 24%, then for each extinguish stack, increase aiming accuracy by 11.4. You can stack up to 4 times, then you take this number times 4. But the thing is, realistically, you cannot have 4 at all times. It's usually about 2 to 3 stacks. So you times this by 2 and 3. For the 5-star weapon, you have a permanent increase in aiming accuracy. Then in battle, you increase attack based on 66% of Matoi's aiming accuracy. And each time you activate ice technical, you debuff defense by 23.3% for 2 turns. On to the awareness. A1, when you skill 1, you gain another extinguish stack. Then when you spend the extinguish stack, you increase crit damage taken by 30% for 2 turns. This allows your skill 3 to be enhanced every time. A2, when spending extinguish stacks, you increase party's attack by 20% and defense by 30% and damage dealt by 15% for 2 turns. And A4, you increase the damage taken duration by 1 turn, so it now lasts for 3 turns. And when you activate deep freeze, you have higher chance of inflicting icebound. So for A6, if foes have burn while on Matoi's turn, you activate skill 1 on the foe 1 time. So it's basically a free skill 1 every turn. So it says here the effect is not activated by Scout, but this is actually wrong. I mean, it is correct in game right now, but in a future update, Saiga has said that it should work with Scout because that's how the Asia versions work. So in reality, after the bug fix, it's going to become if foes have burn and Scout. On Matoi's turn, you activate skill 1 for free, so the rotation basically becomes 3 all the time because skill 1 activates automatically. Then when the same foe is attacked by skill 3 repeatedly, increase damage taken by 25% more for 1 turn. Then you can stack damnation stacks up to 6 times. This is from the A0. As for her cards, the best set is going to be Faith and Futility. This card set increases armor accuracy, which she needs, and also increases 10% damage to allies that are inflicted with technicals. If you want to run a different set, you can run Departure Control, but it's only for a single target. And if you run Departure Control, you need higher armor accuracy for the substats. Here's the armor accuracy table. It's not too bad to hit the required stats. So this one is for 5-star weapon, this one is for 4-star weapon. 4-star weapon I only put to 3 stacks, because realistically there's only going to be 1 turn where there's going to be 4 stacks, and difference isn't really big. The main difference between 5 and 4-star weapon is going to be the defense debuff, which we'll go through in a future section. If you struggle to hit the cap, you can get armor accuracy from the Mindscape. So for her team, she's a general debuffer, so she can be used in literally any team because any DPS appreciates defense debuff and damage taken increase. But her best team is definitely going to be teams that can inflict technicals. So Art and the future Fire Wind. The other slot can be pretty much anything you want, so I'm not going to go through that. And for Dagger, Ex Machina works well. Starry Compass also works for defense debuff. And then we're going to get a Fire Dagger soon, so that's going to be for Fire teams. Personas, 2 of them can be anything that your DPS wants, but 1 persona that you absolutely require if you run a toy team is going to be Drone. The most recent persona added to the exchange. The reason why you need Drone is the burn. You need burn to fully activate Matoi's kit. If you don't have burn, she's gonna suck. So you get burned by using the Purifying Flames, the signature skill. And the tip for you is to make sure to main target Matoi. The reason is because Purifying Flame only has 75% chance to inflict burn, and Matoi has pretty high armor accuracy and like 170%. So now let's go through the 4-star weapon against the 5-star weapon. So honestly, the difference isn't crazy. For the SOS Bishan Mountain, I feel like probably something went wrong here because it's like 10%. The others is only around 5%. So in terms of like the stat requirements, it's not a big difference between 4 and 5-star. The only big difference is the defense debuff. The 5-star weapon gives you about 23% defense debuff. That's really the only big difference. And the thing about defense debuff is that Matoi already gives quite a bit of defense debuff from the skill 1, skill 3. So sometimes you can already overcap the defense. So it's not super required, but there are also still times where you need 20% more defense, then the 5-star weapon would come in handy. But another counter argument is that you can just throw in Starry Compass. Max Starry Compass is like 22%. It's very close to the 5-star weapon, so might as well just use Starry Compass and save some gems. Honestly speaking, I think this weapon is quite skippable, and Matoi isn't particularly a very strong character, which we will see later on. So Matoi against Howler, who is going to be better? So here's the table. We are gonna ignore the Bishan Mountain one because the SOS is Ice Weak. Matoi will give you a lot more points, so this data is kinda invalid. But the others, you can see that 2 wins for Matoi, 1 win for Howler, and the 1 win for Howler is barely any increase. It can very well due to damage variance. And for these 2, it's a very clear win, around 15%. But let's talk about the Omitsunu first. You may think that it makes sense because Howler buffs resonance damage, but there's actually more to that. There's another reason why Howler is slightly better than Matoi, or maybe about the same as Matoi, and it's the rotation. Using Matoi means that you need to throw in Drone into the rotation, which means that you are forced to use a Drone signature skill. You have to sacrifice 1 wonder turn to do that, so you'll be sacrificing something like a crit rate or maybe a defense debuff, which are 2 important stats. Now for the 2 other AoE bosses, the first one is a DOD, and for DOD you can just pre-burn the boss with An. Because it's Vishnu, he's a fire boss, you can just pre-burn with An skill 2, then you can just apply a Matoi skill 1, which will convert the burn to scout, so it's not a big problem here. For Kartikeya, this rotation was using a A6R6 Haru, and A6R6 Haru has a lot of crit rate, which means that I do not need any crit rate buff, and the defense is pretty much close to 0 also, so I also don't need a Marakunda, I only need a Shiva, which means the other slots I can actually throw in a Drone, and it's quite favorable also, because Drone also buffs damage multiplier, so it's overall beneficial to Matoi, because there's no real sacrifice needed. Now to show you what I really mean, I will show you the rotation for this one. I'm gonna go through Howler's rotation first, so the one that scored higher by 2%. You can see that I have immediately 2 crit buffs on the first 2 turns, then I have a Vishnu here, a Vishnu here. The reason why I put Vishnu on turn 3 and turn 5 is because it syncs with the Matoi skill 1 here, which can wind sweep, which means that the Vishnu here and here will get the wind damage taken increase, which is at 27%, which is a pretty good amount. Now if you move on to Matoi's rotation, you'll see that no crit buff here, because I'm forced to use the drone signature skill, is to burn on turn 2 and turn 4, so that the skill 1 here and here will get the skull. Then I'm missing a Vishnu, which means that I'm missing a damage taken increase. So I'm already lacking quite a bit of stuff, and that's why I think Howler is going to be better here, because of rotation problem, which is also obviously a drawback of Matoi, because Matoi needs burn. Before I end this section, I will show you this, a table comparing Matoi and Howler. So you can see the defense debuff. For AoE, Matoi obviously wins, but for single target, Howler wins. Then when you compare the damage taken increase, Matoi has 121%. That is very, very high. Meanwhile for AoE Howler, it's only 61. It's like half of Matoi, which explains the result just now. It's like 15% higher for Matoi. Then for single target, it's 97.6% for resonance damage, and then 58.6% for other damage. It's still lower than Matoi, but again, like I said, it's most likely due to rotation problem. And another thing to note is that the damnation stack I only put to 2 stacks, because it's not realistic to have 4 stacks every time, unless it's A1. So this section, I'll be comparing Matoi against Vino. You're probably wondering why I'm comparing Matoi against Vino. Isn't comparing to Howler enough? The reason is because Vino is better than Howler. It's a crazy claim, I know, but I've proven it in the Howler final review video, and I'm gonna prove it to you again in this video. If you wanna know why, watch the Howler final review video. But anyways, this is the result, and Matoi beats Vino slightly for Yasufusa, the Queen boss, and I can just say that they're about the same. And there's no rotation problem here also, because you can pre-burn with Queen skill 1. So this, I guess, a fair fight, kinda, to both, because they can both reach the full potential. Meanwhile for this one, Vino is higher by 5.6%, and again, the reason is because of rotation. I'm forced to use a drone here to inflict the burn, because this is a Frostgale Mont boss. It will be a different story if it's a Queen boss, because I can possibly inflict burn with Queen herself. But yeah, regardless, Matoi is still lower than Vino. And I put the score for Howler here, and you can see Howler is worse than Vino. I'm not going to go through why, because I went through that in the Howler review video. But yeah, Vino honestly is still holding pretty well as a single target debuffer, and she's free. So the final test here, Matoi against Twins. The reason why I want to do this test is because Twins is the best support in the game. So by measuring Matoi against Twins, you can kinda see where Matoi stands in the game. So looking at the table, it's a clear win, a clean sweep by the Twins. Nobody is surprised. Twins are just very good. I'm not gonna go through why that is, because we already know how good the Twins are. It's time to talk about the things that I like or dislike about Matoi while using her. So I'm gonna start off with the negatives first. The first one is about her A1, and specifically the first sentence. When using skill 1, you gain 1 more extinguish stack. I'm just a little bit annoyed by this one, because for A0R0 and 6 turn rotation, you only get the enhanced skill 3 once out of 3 times. And to get the enhanced skill 3 for 3 out of 3 times, you need the A1, because the A1 gives you an extra extinguish stack, so you can have 4 stacks every other turn. A little bit annoying. It's nothing crazy. The difference between enhanced and not enhanced isn't like insanely broken, but still a bit annoying. The next one I talk about is the highlight. This highlight, I wouldn't say it kinda sucks, but also doesn't fully activate because of the second half. Because the second half, which is about 9.8% damage taken increase, only activates when the foe has Icebound, which the SOS and guild bosses are immune to, so you don't get the extra 9.8% damage increase. So the highlight is gonna be doing 9.3% only. The next thing I'll talk about isn't about Matoi herself, but it's the lack of technical DPS. Because Fire Ring is gonna be released really soon, probably I think less than 24 hours by the time this video releases. And she's the last technical DPS, which sucks for Matoi, because that means Matoi is only stuck to being really good for 1 DPS. And the final bad thing I want to talk about is also the biggest problem with Matoi. It's the thing that really holds her back, and it's that she requires a burn to fully activate the kit. This is a problem because, like I already mentioned, I need to force myself to use a drone to push her limits. If I don't use drone, she's gonna suck, because she will completely lose out the Cold Flame stack, and the Cold Flame stack increases damage taken increase by up to 70+%. So you'll be losing this 70% if you don't have burn. And by using drone, you have to sacrifice some other buffs or debuffs from Wonder, and it will also kind of mess up your rotation. I do have a few good things to say about her. The first one is that she's good for technicals. Sadly, Fire Ring isn't out yet, so I cannot test Matoi with her, but I imagine that it's gonna be a pretty good jump because her technical can kinda double some numbers, which can really increase Fire Ring's damage. Number 2 is that they gave her a little bit of buff, which is that she ignores ice resistance. The reasoning they gave was that fire weak enemies are usually ice resistant, so giving her this ability means that she will deal neutral damage to those ice resistant enemies. This will basically double her damage for those enemies because resistance is half damage, right? So removing the resistance is double the damage, which means that she'll give you more points. So that's a nice change. And the final good thing about her is that her debuffs, the defense debuff and damage taken increase, are like general debuffs. They apply to every enemy regardless of type, regardless of AoE or single target, regardless of resonance or not. It's different from Howler, because Howler has like increase if it's fire, increase if it's resonance. Matoi has none of that. Matoi just debuffs everybody. It makes things simple, and the numbers are also pretty high across the board compared to Howler. So should you pull Matoi? So I'm going to categorize this into 2 ratings. The first one is with a fire team, specifically a Fire Wind team. Second one is going to be a general pool. So for Fire Wind team, it's going to be difficult to judge because she's not out yet. I still don't understand why they released Matoi before her. It makes no sense to me at all, because Chinese New Year just ended. But anyways, imagine Matoi should be best installed with Fire Wind. I hope so, because of technicals. But I also wouldn't be surprised if the twins can somehow be better than Matoi or a Fire Wind team. So for a Fire Wind team, I guess I can give it a 7 out of 10. Now how about a general pool? How much value will you get if you pull this character? Honestly speaking, not a lot of value, because twins exist, Cord exists, Tempest Wind exists. Those supports are super good, so you don't really need her, and she is very skippable. And pulling her, again, won't really improve your account by a lot, because you won't really use her outside maybe a Fire Wind team or a Fire team. So a final general pool rating, 4 out of 10.